Are you ready?
Sign everyone up. Sign everyone up. So, it's funny. I'm just going to say it because I noticed it before while we were going. I will one of these days remember to make the intro video full screen. So there may have been like a good 30 seconds to a minute of just Ducky eating his popcorn. But I think that's a perfect intro to this video. Anyway, it's a big week. It's a big week. It's a big week. We have training camp kicking off. We have fans freaking out. We got UFL mentions on WWE. We got all sorts of things to talk about. And so Around the UFL is live. Before we get to the panel, I'm going to do the thing that I rarely do at the beginning, but I've been doing at the beginning a little bit more often. Subscribe, click the bell. It builds morale. It also lets you know when we go live, just like Monday nights at 6 p.m. Eastern, like we are now for Around the UFL. Just like we'll be live March 28th for a little old thing called Spring Stock 4 at the UFL kickoff in Houston, home of the Swanger. To do those things, here's another thing that you could do that's free. It's free. It's so free. It's me. You can like the video. Oh, and that feels so good. And if you don't like the video, dislike it as well because the engagement helps. So get signed up. Man, I'm feeling good. Sometimes I jump on these videos. I'm like, I don't even want to do this show. And then the show starts and there's a good old mistake in there. Man, there's nothing that gets my blood flowing. Man, it's a good mistake.
You're just saying that. Look at you. You're always jazzed to do these shows. I know it. You got to have your time to shine to let us know how the other narrative of Houston being on top somehow is going to happen. I mean,
12-0.
I mean, you can't tell me you're not excited to do that every week.
Dude, just wait. I'm telling you, just wait until we beat the Battlehawks caw crying out on the field. Oh, man. Thought it was bad before. Anyway, let's go around the panel. Zachy boy, how you doing today?
I'm good. I'm great. I'm doing great, actually. Jumping on. Hey, look, training camp, all kinds of the content I want to see is kicking off. I love seeing the on-field stuff and feeling like the season's officially here. So this is the best I can be is today right now. So yeah, give me 2 thumbs up as well. It's good times. That's all I got. That's all I got.
Sign you up. Shucky ducky quack quack, get signed up. How are you doing? I don't know what's going on with me today. How you doing, man?
Good. When I was making my popcorn, when you open the bag and like all that heat comes out, for some reason I just forgot that happened and I burnt my face doing that.
I thought you were going to say that the heat. I don't know where I was going to go with that. Anyway, well, I'm glad to have you here. Jimmy James, my man, breaking all the news. How's it going over there? Feeling better? Sounds like it.
Yeah, doing better, on the up and up. And I mean, hey, training camp's underway. Obviously, I'm going to be doing great. Honestly, I'm just pissed I'm not down there in Arlington. But other than that, I'm doing really well.
Well, good. Well, I'm glad to see you. So let's just jump right into it. I guess, do we want to get the stuff that everybody's freaking out over first, or do we want to talk about training camp?
Yeah, how you want to tackle this? Because
you know what? Let's just talk about it. Because I think
let's tackle this better than destroying wood.
No broken bones, please.
Here's my thing on it. I mean, it's not great news, but it's not like the sky is falling news that a lot of people are acting like it is, and not necessarily in the community per se, unfortunately by like the big media. And it's just another one of those examples. And Zach, we've talked about this extensively going back to like season 1 of the USFL podcast on, from a league perspective, you want to avoid any mistake, big or small, as possible, because the only thing the mainstream media is generally going to talk about is the mistakes or the things that go wrong, and we're just seeing it happen right now. That being said, it's not a great situation, but people are acting like a strike is imminent when I don't think that was necessarily the case. I think the quarterbacks were trying to make a point. They made a point. Where does it go from here? I don't even know if the story is ready to be fully judged yet because there's probably still some moving pieces. We'll see. As Anybody on the panel, thoughts? Anyone want to jump in?
Now I'll wait, but I do have thoughts, because my initial thing, and I actually want to hear what James has to say with this. I just think this is like looking at the history of, you talk about like collective bargaining and kind of union talk in sports. A lot of times it's a great game of chicken, and whoever wants to pull up first and kind of concede some concessions, a lot of times kind of feels like that's the case. What usually happens though is you don't have stuff, especially for sport with so little game content like football. You don't want to go, you see little to nothing of that anymore, just because you have so little time to be on a field. And I myself think that you're going to see this game play out. It's going to, whatever they get done gets done. And it'll be completed, and they'll do what they need to for this season. But like, realize too, and we've talked about this at length, new union leadership, new heading, they had to restart. So this is kind of where we're at right now, is like, the UFPA and company, they talked a big game that they were going to get the better deal than what they had with the steelworkers. And we're about to find out. This is their big promise. This is their moment. This is what they came in for after the steelworkers moved on. And so we're about to see before we get the season going.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll jump in with what I know, and that's I actually got an update today. So let me go ahead and just read you guys what I was given. This is coming from a representative who's pretty deep in the situation.
Mm-hmm.
So the league did make a new proposal based off of, it's in response to the QB action that was taken. For those of you who might not be aware of what happened, I'm assuming you saw it by now. The quarterbacks held out and did not report to a mini camp. And again, so many people have taken this out of context, and it's really annoying me, because it was made very clear that the quarterbacks skipped a mini camp. They did not skip training camp. They were still planning to report to training camp. There's a difference between a mini camp and a training camp. Jordan Palmer, who is working with the league again, he was with the XFL in 2023. He's back with the UFL this year. He's a QB developmental guy. He's been holding camps. They just had one last month for the quarterbacks. We saw them go down there and work with him, just work on technique, things like that. All 24 quarterbacks were supposed to go to that camp again. That's what the league wanted. Now, some of them were already planning on skipping that mini camp. Guys like Matt Corral, who were going to go throw the NFL Combine, they don't need to go to Jordan Palmer's camp. They're at the NFL Combine. They're throwing. That said, all the quarterbacks came together in unison and decided to write that letter to the league and say, hey, look, we're not going to be at this camp because you guys, the offer you gave us was insulting, which was said in the letter. That doesn't mean that did not mean that they were going to skip out on actual training camp. The point of that letter was to bring attention to what was going on and, just take a stand and be like, okay, hey guys, we're not going to take this bull crap. Like we want to take a stand and let you guys know that we're not okay with this. So that's where we are now, where the league and the union and all of these guys are still trying to sort things out. So as of today, the league did make a new proposal in response to the quarterback action that was taking place. And it's apparently good enough. It was good enough to get the players to camp, but things are still shaky. No CBA was signed yet. According to what I was told today, no CBA signed. And if the owners and the players can't figure this out, we could see more actions taken by players throughout training camp. That's where it's at right now.
Right.
So at least it's moving. I mean, at least there's still some gears happening, and we'll see it play through. But it is funny to see bigger publications. Again, I'm not throwing shade at the community, because surprisingly, I'd say the community handled the news halfway decent. I think people went into it with a little bit more than usual. Now, there was still some that the sky is falling and this and that. So, but credit where credit's due. But the big media, right? Pro Football Talk, right? Dude, they are always ready. They are always ready to be like, oh, spring football. Is there some bad news? Oh, let me get my writing fingers out. And there they were. And you saw it in the headlines. And headlines are a funny thing, because you can almost read the story or the intent of the story without reading the story at all. And so every time you see UFL bracing for a labor strike, is it? No, not really. Could it potentially? Maybe, I'm sure, right? But at the end of the day, are we going to see a situation where all 24 quarterbacks are going to say, nope, I'm not showing up? I don't think so. I think that's crazy. I think there's a very low likelihood of that happening. But we'll see. We'll see where the negotiations lead us. as a fan, I wouldn't be worried. And and here's the thing, Zach, for all the, rainbow and sunshine that people act like I paint, I think I was pretty realistic about things on the last UFL podcast. And so here I am kind of continuing that. I don't think this is the end of the world news that some publications are acting like, but it's not great news nonetheless. But I'll leave it at that before I say something silly, because that's what I do best.
Yeah. Again, I would, with the level and the size this league is and what the players need from this, everyone wants to play. It's the thing. They're gonna find a way to get it done. But realize that as we talk, again, we've moved on post-merger now from the two companies and consolidated a lot of resources to make this best bundle. And I've seen a few players talk on this too, where it's like, look, we took two big entities, we combined into one. I know they are trying to make a profitable business, we've talked, but also players should get pretty similar standard across for other professional leagues. And I think that's what they're just wanting to make sure that's held to a case, Like we're talking like NFL, CFL stuff, if we're staying at that level, especially if we're comparing, for example, the better comparison where you're CFL level, you're professional and you're that level as well. You can go play and you can get film and whatnot and go and have a career and still do a full season length like that. Like, you want to match those. I feel like a lot of those standards that are up there too. And so I think they're just trying to make sure that, like, look, it's a new union heading of the UFPA. They felt that they can get at least better stuff met from what they saw. And so that's, I think, what they're trying to do right now. I think they get stuff done personally. You still got to keep an eye on the story, because keep in mind, you still have to finalize and finish this up so that we can move into a season or have a consolation or something like that that's going to be made. I think they get it done, but just realize, like, you still want to have an ear to the ground on this, because that is going to affect how stuff plays out, or even how long-term a deal we're talking about. Remember, the USFL's last CBA before mergers went down, that was a multi-year progressive deal. So, I think that's the other thing, is how long-term we talking? What are these extra incentives beyond this year? Like, we're not talking just a one-year deal and renegotiations. We're talking multiple years right now. They want to get down and set up like any traditional CBA for any traditional league. So that's something you got to be watching out for too. It'll get done. I just want to see how far down the road they add, and in terms of grow with it as well, that they add for incentives onto this, like we saw with the old USFL PA setup back a few years ago.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I will say, just because I had the comment on the screen, shout out to 8-Bit Rick and his awards. I don't know if anybody was following along last night. He said, hey, the Oscars are going on. We're going to throw around some awards of our own. We got one. We got one of those bad boys.
Oh, we did. We landed one.
Yeah.
No thanks to James.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, James. Who
Damn.
But yeah, no, sign them up. That's one of the things I love seeing from the community. And actually, now that I'm talking about the community, there was something I saw that you responded to, Ducky, on social media. No, you smirk. No, this is actually a heartwarming story. Heartwarming might not be the right word. But last week you were talking about doing your part as the community and kind of telling everybody that you could tell about, spring football. And I think there was a story of somebody at like a checkout counter or something like that. And they had hey, the Battlehawks are coming back. They sat with them. They went through and bought tickets with them. And I saw you had responded to that. And you know what? I thought it was worth mentioning, because that's exactly what you were talking about last week. And we saw it in the wild. I should have been prepared and had that tweet ready. We could share it on the screen, but sign you up. This is why you are the community legend, Ducky. For anybody that ever wanted to know why, who is this guy? What does he do? It's things like that. He says something, somebody does it, and he's there to say, that was my idea.
I'll take the credit.
I mean, obviously, Brandon UFM is going to take the credit. That's what he usually does. So,
yeah, you keep.
That's why my tag's Brandon UFM.
Oh, you changed it. Oh, that's funny. Training camp. So I guess, did anybody have any other thoughts on the QB thing before we move into training camp?
yeah, I guess I'll just kind of close with, I Ref, I'm with you that, yeah, it's not the end of the world. Football is going to be played. Look, is there the hypothetical that all hell breaks loose and all the players are like, screw this, we're not playing? Yes. The percent chance of that actually happening is extremely, extremely low. I mean, these guys are all trying to get back to the NFL, and they know that they need the UFL in order to do that. So I know Pro Football Talk had put out an article, it was either yesterday or today, about the subject, and they were talking about how it's like, this situation would actually hurt the players more than it would hurt the league. Where if they decide not to play, you're literally hurting your future career, right? And is it unfortunate that it gives the UFL a bit of leverage in the sense that, like, yeah, I mean, they don't really have to do much and the players should still play? Yes. But at the end of the day, I mean, the UFL is providing a platform for you to play professional football. And again, the UFL is all about taking a gamble and a bet on yourself, right? I mean, this league is not where you're trying to make a massive lucrative career. This is a league where you're trying to get another opportunity to keep playing football or get back to the next level. That's the entire point of the league. So in doing so, you're betting on yourself and you're making some sacrifices. You're going and you're living in Arlington for a few months out of the year. You're not going to be making millions of dollars like an NFL contract because obviously nobody in the UFL is making close to that. So, my message to people that are worried about that situation is I think it'll get sorted out. I don't think it's a massive deal. But again, it's something that the league, hopefully we see them come to some sort of resolution with the players because at the end of the day, the league doesn't exist without the players, and they deserve some respect too. So again, it's one of those things where you don't want to be on either side of the extreme. You want to understand both sides of the story and hopefully come to the conclusion in the middle, which is where the truth actually lies.
100%. 100%. So speaking of the players, speaking of the teams, we got training camp. And the thing that I wanted to see is happening. Zach, I had a little bit of a stink about social media the other day. I'm not going to mention the post, but there's the post. You all know which post I'm talking about. Anyway, I'm not going to stay on that.
I don't know which one.
Anyway, I'm not going to stay on it. Otherwise, I'm just going to get upset. But one of the things I wanted to see was all the things that we saw over the weekend as videos of players showing up and kind of getting some of those extra clips. And even now that training camp's kicking off, we're starting to get a couple of videos on social media. I know there's even some B-roll that's for the, I don't know, insiders, the media, whatever you want to call it. Those things are starting to flourish. And those are the things that I wanted to see. And, it's always when it starts to feel even more real and you realize, wow, we're only 25 days away from kickoff. So discuss any initial thoughts on anything we've seen. Now, James, I know you saw some footage from Camp Wizenhunt. See anything interesting there?
I mean, basic stuff today. They're just running some basic drills, getting accustomed to the system. It's not like there's anything crazy, any massive plays. But, it's just so refreshing to see these guys on the field. Like, we've waited so long to see these guys in their pads, especially, all the new arrivals. Like, I'm looking at some of the photos out of Memphis today, and we're seeing, like, Eli Walker back in the league, the former Mauler. He looks great in his threads. Mark Gilbert out there. Jaron Horton's excited about getting that defense back together and all those guys. Whether they're former Maulers or just the new guys that Jim Manos has brought in, which I'm going to go out on a limb, and I really do think Memphis is going to surprise some people this year. I genuinely thought that, when you go 2-8 and when you have a season like Memphis did last year, in pro sports, it takes years to rebuild. Like, it takes some serious time to get back on track. And I was at first like, I see Memphis maybe like 4-6, like they get a couple more wins under their belt. They're like, okay, we're getting closer. And then 2026 is the year they get to the playoffs. I wouldn't be shocked if they made a playoff run this year. I mean, the talent they put together, Ken Wizenhunt, I really like the way, just the way he's talked to the media so far, the drive that he has, the coaches that he has on staff, and the talent they've brought in. I mean, EJ Perry now in there. I mean, look, Ducky, I know you're a big Troy Williams fan. I love Troy too. I think if Ken Wizenhunt can unlock EJ Perry's full potential, this is the playoff roster. EJ Perry is a quarterback that set a USFL playoff record in passing yards against Jaron Horton's defense in the USFL in 2023. That was the best defense basically we've ever seen in spring football.
Did he beat him? At any of the 3 games that they played, did he beat him?
No. Well, EJ only played in one of those games, so that's a bit of an asterisk there, Ducky. But
he was active.
Listen, but the point being,
Look, if there's anyone that would have tried to talk there for smack, it would have been me, and I can't do that. So that just literally shows exactly what you're talking.
point being,
Yeah.
Memphis, I mean, you look at this roster, I'm like, holy crap. I mean, it's like 80% new players. Like, it's actually ridiculous how many guys that they've brought in, and they're all, I mean, for the most part, it's guys that are younger, that have a lot of potential in the scene, which I love, right? Because here was Memphis' downfall last year, was they just had too many guys that were, yes, did they put up numbers into the spring scene? Sure. But they weren't, like, they were at the end of their careers. They were just slower and getting older, and they need young talent, and I think that's what Memphis has done, and I really am excited to see how that all plays out this year for them.
I tend to agree. Sorry,
yeah.
real quick, Zach. I'll be
Yeah,
real
no, go
short
ahead,
on this,
please.
and you take over. But I tend to agree. I think the Showboats are going to be one of the teams that's going to shock the league, shock the fans. I agree. I think they're going to get to the playoffs. And just to buckle on that, what's going to be amazing to see is the two teams that were in the Pooper Bowl last year, the Roughnecks and the Showboats, are now going to be vying for that championship in the playoffs. And I mean, will the Showboats also be undefeated? Well, I guess they couldn't be. They're going to have to lose twice to us. But can they beat us in the playoffs? I think that's the real question here. Can they do it? Can they beat Destiny? So anyway, go on, Zach. 12-0.
Oh, by all means, allow me to get some smoke. No, I'm messing with you, man. It's all good. My whole thing, it's funny you'd bring up EJ Perry. I hope he finds some consistency. That's the thing I want to see, because I do think that upside more often can show out than what we see the downside of someone who I think gets a little too rushed at times. Whether that is offensive line issues that Michigan's had in the past, whether it's other items of getting down what you need from finding your targets. I like the guy's talent. I'm glad he's still in the league. I actually have been really upset if this was the last we saw of him, because I think he still can start somewhere. So that's an awesome quarterback to have, along with, to me, as much as I think the name is now not as exciting as we had hyped up at one point back at the beginning of last season. But, Quentin Norby's a good floor. So, I mean, you do have a good room there that kind of, you have some high upside, or you have a pretty consistent, you know what you're going to get. So then it just comes down to, if you execute, have the fundamentals, and you have a core group of talent and folks that are able to do the basics of football well, you can go a long way, you can get a lot of wins. I think it's going to be tough. I will pull my fan card out on here. I still am not 100% on believing that the Showboats can jump the Panthers, but I think that is up for debate. Because,
I think it'll be closer this year.
Right, and I do agree. I think
Michigan's going to have to be, like last year, Michigan could kind of keep their foot off the gas pedal a bit because they were so much better.
Mm-hmm.
This year, they're going to need to be playing at the high, like that 5-game win streak that Michigan had last year. They need to be playing at that level to be the second seed again.
Yeah, well, I like the USFL conference a lot this season for more the competition standpoint, because if Memphis or I'll even throw Houston in, though I'm much less confident in Houston. I think they'll be a more exciting team, but that could also lead to some more upsets and more kind of tomfoolery with any playoff kind of seeding and whatnot. So that's what I want, and I think that we're going to get that this year. I really believe that, and I like your point on Memphis, by the way, last season. One thing that we're learning more as we get more seasons of spring football and we're seeing guys return as well. I feel like spring football is a lot more unpredictable for if you have like a core set of guys that are veterans that did well the previous year. Like, no offense, like this is one thing. I think I've said this in places. I think my Panthers team, I think that they have the potential to be just as good as last season. But I mean, I just watched Memphis just last year, who brought practically near as much good talent as you can get from New Orleans or from the Showboats from the year prior, come together and completely wet the bed on a national stage. So that's what I have. That's the duality of this sport and of this sector of the sport, is like, I'm not guaranteed to have quality. Yeah, there's a lot of good chances I can. I see Birmingham all the time, but they reload. That's the difference. You do have some consistent players, but much to everyone, as we've seen, they reload. They find new guys. They cycle guys out. They keep active on that. So, Michigan, like we've talked, it's a bit of a gamble there. They do have they are betting a lot on, oh my God, I got to stop for a second.
I was about to say, what?
What is this?
What in the hell?
I got that. That's a shutdown of me right there. We got to stop. How is that how is it QB3?
Don't they know he's going to be a wide receiver this year?
Where's Jace when you need him? That's a crazy take. Zach,
Whoa. This guy said I was a Mahomes glazer. That's completely wrong. I had to direct that chat.
What?
I'm sorry. Go ahead. That guy in the chat said I was a Mahomes glazer, and I just want everybody to know that's not true.
to go off
Maybe.
your point, Zach, obviously no guarantees.
I'm late.
No guarantees in spring ball, so we'll see. I think Michigan, it's a tale of two stories. Michigan brought back a lot of the same key pieces. They're looking to run it back. Memphis blew it up. Can you see teams run it back and see success again? Yes. But when every other team in the UFL is getting better, even Birmingham Birmingham cleared house in some of their position groups, and they just freaking won the championship. So it's like, we'll just see how these strategies play out. I am excited to see Michigan, though. I think Bryce Perkins, if he stays healthy, that'll be a big piece for them. But here's an interesting little tidbit on the EJ Perry story, which I talking to Mike Nolan today in Michigan media availability. He said it was Perry who asked for his release. And the reason Nolan gave was, he wanted to be closer to his family, and I guess Memphis is a bit better for that. Obviously, everybody's still living in Arlington, but I'm assuming he has family closer in that area that can come out to games and whatnot.
Right.
But then again, you also have to wonder, was EJ Perry seeing the writing on the wall and was seeing that Bryce Perkins or even Danny Etling was going to be above him in the pecking order heading into this season, right? I mean, you have to imagine he's above Rocky Lombardi just because Rocky's a rookie. But, seeing what Bryce did and even seeing what Danny did, I'm not a big Etling fan. But he did have some really good moments last year, especially when he was healthy. So, you kind of look at what Perry put on film last year, and it makes you wonder. I mean, his competition against Dormady and Williams, I feel like, is a lot easier competition for him as opposed to Etling and Perkins. So, you have to wonder how that all played out behind the scenes. But either way, it was Perry who asked for his release, and we'll see how it plays out. Zach, to kind of bounce off one of your other points, too, is, inconsistent play was the story of EJ's season last year. But what didn't help is that he had Ryan Pope as his starting left tackle, who was allowing sack after sack after sack week in and week out. We see that change. We see him have a stronger offensive line. We see him stay healthy. And I do think the ceiling's pretty high for him.
As long as Memphis has invested correctly, that's the one thing. Clearly, if any team needed to, I know Michigan had their woes. Memphis definitely, that has got to be something that it can't be the same as last year with Case Cookits. So, but we're about to find out. We know EJ can be mobile. That's what's great. I just think a guy like that needs to be able to process the game with a little less panic. And I think he does well when he gets just a little bit. Any QB does, but him in particular, he's one of those guys, rushes his timing a little bit more is all. I'm glad he's in and still with this and still in the league. I also will say this ain't the first time that we've seen anyone from a spring league say, I want to be closer to my family or closer in location, or, that is a factor that changes how they view what my priority is. So, wouldn't be surprised too if that was playing into that whole thing. I mean, we've seen coaches leave for the sake of just, I'm too far away at a hub.
Oh.
That's not out of the ordinary. Now that goes for everyone else. Players, hey, I've gotten what I've gotten out of this. I can go home. Let's start my life elsewhere, or let's focus on that. Wouldn't be the first time I heard anything like that either.
Yep. Webb just said EJ has a child on the way in Nashville, so that explains it.
Sign him up. Well, congrats to him. One thing that I saw on social media earlier today was exactly what I love to see is my man Molson kicking it 60 yards. That's just the beginning. I mean, we might not even need to score touchdowns. With a leg like that, it's going to be, Zach, it's going to be like arena football. At the 1 yard line, screw it, we're kicking it.
You did that to pull up my heartstrings. That's all you were doing there. You're so clever.
Well, just wait. You're going to be loving the Roughnecks, too, because they're America's team. Once we get to, I'd say, maybe like 3 or maybe 4-0, possibly 5-0. Maybe it's going to take the magic of 5-0. We couldn't do it in, 2023?
Yeah. I know what happened the last time that happened.
Yeah, well, you better hope. The whole world doesn't get scared of the inevitable and shut down again.
If that happens, if Houston goes 5-0, and then I'm not going to say it, but if that happens, and another spring league starts up, there should
Roughnecks
never
aren't
be a
allowed.
Houston team.
Well,
No,
hold
just
on.
a Houston team in general.
Oh no, just bring the gamblers back. They'd be all in.
Dude, I wish they would have never got rid of that.
I know, dude. And it's such a perfect logo.
Especially with like gambling being as popular it is right now.
Well,
It's
all I want is for them to use the logos at their disposal to sell extra merch just because they have them.
Yeah, just
That's
sell
all-
me a gamblers.
That's all
whatever
I
I
would
want.
like. in my life.
I'm probably in the minority here, but I think the Roughnecks is a better brand.
Oh, I think it's better for the sake of like the choice between the fan bases, and I also think it's really good. I just want the merch for those logos to be available. That is my sole thing. If you have them, smoke them if you got them, type of thing. Is how I look at it.
Yeah, that and to
You
be
know.
fair, gamblers in Texas, it's like, if it was Vegas, it'd make more sense. But
Well, we have poker
Card house.
rooms. Poker rooms. That's where all the real fun stuff happens. It's not that fun.
Well,
It
I mean,
happens.
speaking of the Roughnecks,
Yeah.
I'd be curious to throw this discussion around a little bit. What are we thinking about that week 1 opener with Houston getting the nod? Where they're the home
spring-
team for season 2 opener. It's obviously a massive game. It's gonna have a lot of eyeballs on it. It's the Friday night UFL kickoff basically, and we're letting the 1-9 team host it.
Here's my
I
worry.
have a couple thoughts about this. One,
Yeah, I wanna hear
here's the
this.
interesting thing is apparently with the TDCU having the name changed to ref. What is it? What are they changing the name to?
Oh, I don't know. It's like Space City Jammer or something.
12-0 stadium.
Thank you. I whiffed on that one.
Damn.
Whatever they're calling it. Apparently that night is going to be like the ceremony for like changing the name and all of that jazz. So that's cool. At the least going to be collaborating with the stadium on that part. So I see why they want that to be a part of opening weekend. I just don't know. Like I feel like we didn't need to make that the opening game, especially looking at the ticket sales in Houston and how the team played last year. But I do think the game will be more competitive than people think. Like I've seen some people talking about how, oh gosh, this is going to be like the Alliance American Football opener where the Apollos took bell to ass against the Legend and it was like 40-6.
Whoa.
But I do think this game will be a little bit more competitive, and here's why. One, Houston will be at home, so that helps. They're not going to be in St. Louis, so they don't have to deal with that environment. Two, the Roughnecks have seen some improvements. Anthony Brown, if he can somehow manage to play well in his TJ Johnson offense, I will give him a lot of credit. But I think that it's possible. Like the talent is there. You got Brown throwing to guys like Justin Hall, Kiki Chisholm, a couple of those guys that they brought in. I mean, TJ Vasher, I think, is a guy that does have plenty of potential as an underrated guy who was with the Brahmas a couple of years ago. The offensive line looks a little bit better. Not great, but better. And St. Louis has a lot of pressure on them because you've got a brand new quarterback, brand new offensive coordinator, whole new system. They're not going to be perfectly in sync week 1, right? Now, let's say this was Bruce Gradkowski and AJ McCarron coming back. I'd be like, yeah, St. Louis is going to run away with this. I don't know, because it's going to take some time. It's going to take some actual game reps for Phil McGeoghan to figure out his system for whoever the quarterback is, whether it's Duggan or Cordero or maybe even Wilkins in St. Louis. I'll tell you what, if it's Manny Wilkins in St. Louis, I think Houston can win that game because I don't have any faith in Wilkins to be a starting quarterback in this league.
I've got a
Respect.
prediction.
Okay.
But
You do. All right.
Oh, I didn't mean to cut you off, James.
No, go ahead, Ducky. It's important.
With
Excuse me,
Max,
my Panther pride.
Yeah, MI Panther Pride. With Max Duggan joining the team, I seriously think 63-7, Houston.
I'll take it. You know what? It might even be worse than that because I'll give you this. Here's another aspect to it. So I don't know if any of you remember XFL, but anytime the XFL had a game that was on like a wonky night, like a Thursday, Friday night, even the spring league too, whenever there was like one of those weird scheduled games, it was always end up being like something crazy would go down. Maybe the first half of the game, nothing happens, but then the second half of the game was like a circus game. And I fully expect Houston to come out there and surprise a couple people. Maybe it's because they're at home. Maybe it's because they're going to be Space City Credit Union instead of TDECU. Maybe it's that it's just destiny. Maybe it's because Zachy Boy and I are going to be in the crowd. Maybe. We don't know. But
Ref
I
always
do
leaves me
know
out.
12-0. That's all I know.
Ref always leaves me out whenever it comes to you guys in spring stock. I'm always there.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
He's like, screw that guy.
Yeah,
What's
and
that-
Ducky,
what's that mean?
and Ducky.
What's that mean? Shoot that guy.
Kentucky, he pointed.
Dude, well, the picture you brought up, sorry, we're going to derail real quick. I was posting over the weekend just pictures from spring stock and summer stock and just every event I've been to. And yeah, we had the picture with Daryl Johnston. It's James, Zach, and me. And Ducky was like, yeah, I'm in the corner. I'm like, yeah, why the hell aren't you in the picture? I don't know why. I don't know why that happened. I don't know.
Because I was talking to Darren. I was like sitting there thanking him for letting me take photos and stuff. I was
No, I
like,
was
"Oh, dude,
gonna
thanks for
say.
letting a guy like me take photos."
I was gonna say I remember there's a good reason for that.
This was immediately after Darren's like, Ducky, move, get out of there. Because I'm like on live TV looking around to take photos. So
Oh, the good old days, man, dude. Spring stock and summer stock too.
I'll tell you, I do think that kickoff game, if there's any if there's any chance that, and if I'm going to give Houston the benefit of the doubt, which I've already told the ref here, I'm taking whatever bet we choose. I'm taking St. Louis, and if I win, I'll give no penalty. If he wins, I will find a massive win for him to have as a betting win. So we're going to discuss that. But I also believe this is one of the best kind of scenarios to get a win like this if you are say a team like Houston that I think you got nothing to lose. It's the beginning of the season. Teams, because of short training camp, are not going to, I say, fully be ready to go. Now, coaching does play into this, and I still have to mention that CJ Johnson is the head coach of the Houston Roughnecks, so I can't just fully disregard. But, you know, if there's any time you're going to get and sneak a win, early season usually I feel like is the best possible time if you're going to get it together, because once some of these better teams with higher quality rosters and coaching kind of stick it and get their train rolling, when maybe if they have a few slow games, the back half of the season's where it gets harder to be that way in some regards, especially if it's, you tell who the pretenders and the contenders are. You know, it kind of goes that way a lot of times in spring football. You know who's going to be up there or down there. So who knows?
Real quick.
Week one might be the best chance.
Real
But
quick,
it's still hard for me to sell myself on that.
I must address a comment. So Freddie says Space City Financial, not Space City Credit Union. Let me just do something here real quick. I just want to.
Sounds like the official bank of Space Force.
Let me just pull this up here real quick. I don't know. That says Space City Credit Union to me. And hold on, let me just pull up this other link.
Can you
here
pull
real
the
quick.
PR that says what's going on the side of this thing?
Oh, let's see. Hold on. So this says Space City Credit Union too. So maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but I'm just reading what these people are calling the damn thing. All right. Just anyway, I had to,
Just
unsully my
the guy that
reputation
lives-
on that one.
Just the guy that lives a little ways down there, goes off.
I never heard of it. I'll be honest. I never heard of it, but I looked it up. I'm like, okay, Space City Credit Union. And then I got Freddie up in the chat, squawking at me.
By the way, shout out to Christopher Tisdale. Man loves throwing us some super chats. Yeah.
Hold on, where is he at? Why does it not highlight him in
Hey,
here?
and Chris is doing the Lord's work, man. I mean, he is trying to get a military flyover in D.C. in Week 10 because he's got some connections. And who knows if it's possible? Knowing the league, they might be like, oh, this is too much. But he is working on it, and he submitted the paperwork apparently to try to get the ball rolling with the where you can get the planes from, which I'm assuming is some military base over there. So yeah, we'll see how that works out. But Chris, best of luck, and if you pull that off, it'll be pretty sick.
Yeah, that would be dope.
Hold on, I need to find his message in the chat. Why is
so
this
I don't know.
difficult?
I don't know if Riverside does super chats well, but I will read off. It says St. Louis sucks, Houston 1-0.
See, I saw that, but I just want to highlight it. Where are
What did it
you?
say?
Oh my god!
It said St. Louis sucks, Houston 1-0. If you're asking me to say a third time, I won't, because that will require something else for me.
I'll just donate then.
Does it just like hide the super chats in here? Maybe it just like has like some kind of weird glitch. I'm gonna have to get on with these dudes.
Well, we just got another one.
Riverside.
Do you see Appleman's? Because it just came up as well.
I ain't doing that.
I'll go with it. Here's so $2 for Ducky to become a Stallions fan.
So yeah, that's weird. It doesn't show the super chats in the Riverside chat. What are you doing, Riverside? But thank you guys. For
and
the
this is
super
why
chats.
I'm the chat moderator every show.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to get on Riverside. I'm going to make them, one, I'm going to make them give me a discount. Two, I'm going to make them implement these features. I'll keep you updated.
Yeah. By the way, guys, as always, thank you. You don't have to do those. We never ask for those, but we appreciate them all the same. Does help our shows and things we do with the said shows. So appreciate that a ton. Let me circle back here.
Content.
We talk about training camp in terms of the content wise, which, by the way, you can tell the league is in full steam ahead mode when it's on and off season. It's so obvious when they have to kind of shut off the lights a little bit to go into off season mode versus on season mode, and content's one of the kings. But beyond the content, I'm going to be loving. We can finally start talking some camp battles, man. I love me some good camp battles. Of course, obviously, we've talked about Michigan's for a minute now. Obviously, we have the Magoo and Corral discussions coming up too. But I love going on referencing Nick's roster doc and kind of just seeing and looking, some positions that can split threads.
They've
or
positions
positions that are overstocked. To me,
it's Nick's completely free roster doc. Get it right.
Exactly. 100% free, nothing forever.
Anyway, sorry. I feel like I throw the show off course when I say things like this.
Don't do this. You're fine. What are you doing?
And you know what? I'm going to acknowledge the effort here real quick. So James, you're still yet to effort. Chris trying to get the blob in DC, and good. You shouldn't. You know why? Because I'm trying to get the blob in Houston, and
dude, I feel like
what?
Houston needs it more.
No, I feel like DC and blob, he's red.
Well, I get
and
why.
He's kind of like devilish, so he's like a politician kind of. So like,
wow,
you kind of.
That's a good one.
All right,
I'd say stick him in DC.
I get
Okay,
your point.
here's my take is
red blob bad.
ref. I mean, Marty the Mauler should go to Houston because Roughneck, Mauler,
that just makes
kind of
sense.
Similar-ish.
I think any of them, honestly.
The Gamblers Bandit could go to the Renegades. You could throw, you could throw Dave the Wave with the Battlehawks.
No, the Battlehawks. You just set a dumpster on fire, then push it out in the middle of the field.
Wow. We really do no favors.
I'm still shocked that we got a Battlehawks player to come on this show. That is actually pretty amazing.
What's crazy about Travis joining the show last week was literally like 2 days before we found out we were getting him on the show. Him and I had an altercation on Twitter, and he said something. It was about the St. Louis championship possibly being there, whatever. And I replied to his tweet and I said, "It's not like you're going to be playing in the game. You'll just be doing the coin toss." And then he's like, "Oh, you bore me." And then I found out that he was coming on the show, and I thought it was the funniest thing ever.
Oh, I love the internet for like these reasons alone, and this show, Any other thoughts on training camp before we move on? I got a little thing, not on training camp, but beyond training camp.
I think we've covered a lot of it. I think it'll just, last year we were like, man, these are going to be the toughest cuts that we've seen yet. And once again, I think these are going to be the toughest cuts that we're going to see yet with all the talent that was brought in, a lot of the teams that were acquired. I will say, there were a couple teams that are kind of made some questionable acquisitions, like Houston's one of them. Some of their signings, I'm just kind of like, eh. Arlington's another one where, I love what they're doing because they are bringing in some small school guys, and I think that's fantastic. But I look at a lot of the random signings that they've made with some of these small school guys, and you stack them up to the guys that San Antonio has brought in and who Birmingham has brought in, and it's like, are we really getting better? I don't think so. And if Arlington's not better, they're cooked. I mean, we're bringing in, like, for example, why did we bring in Devion Clayton, who has not played football since he was in high school, was a track star, was on the Vegas Vipers practice camp roster for a little bit in March of 2023. What are we doing here? I I'm a little
Devil's
bit confused.
advocate, Brandon Aubrey.
What?
Oh, I see what he's doing.
Devil's
But I
like,
also argue that
that's a
I feel
kicker
it's a little
though.
bit different.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a
I mean that's a
kicker.
professional soccer player, so that is a little bit
Nothing
different.
will make
But
me forget.
I
Sorry.
was going off a tangent there. What I'm trying to say is across the board, these cuts are going to be really, really tough for most of these teams.
Oh yeah.
Well, that is going to be one. Yeah, it's always shocking when you get to the cuts, because I remember last year, even before, as people were writing their analysis about who people thought were going to get signed and not signed, people kind of flip out, and then as they happen, people flip out, and some of these guys end up back on the team. Where I was going to segue real quick was nothing will ever make me forget, Zach, when you and I were pulled over at Buc-ee's during that game with the opening weekend last year with the Panthers. No, not last year. It was the year before. Wait, was it last year? Whenever, when Aubrey first kick, and you're like, they're talking. You guys attempted a field goal since high school, and you're like, why do they do this to us? Why is this how? And then he makes after the iced kick. Oh, it was beautiful.
The frickin' Jake Bates kick will always live in my head.
Yeah, sorry.
For the fact that I really, for real, the frickin' announcer going, he hasn't kicked since high school, and just draining a 60-plus yarder like it's nothing. Still one of my favorite all-time moments is as a fan of just anything. So always gonna live rent-free in my head. We'll never let go of that one. But no, that's like one of our favorite road trip moments, easily, hands down. But yeah, I'm just stoked for more moments like that. You know, I think one thing I've seen lately, because you're seeing more of what you love stuff, and you know, if we're talking the advertising campaign the league's got, like, the more they keep putting out new things and trying to like hype up, hey, remember these great moments from this last year, and like this high, like just kind of push up this high, fast-paced action that was last season. Like, I'm like, yeah, I'm in for it. You know, and then we talk in the Discord, and like many of us have discussed, you know, the talent level this year feels like it's at one of the highest, arguably the highest of any of these leagues we've ever seen. And that just adds into the fuel of hopefully we'll get one of the best, if not maybe the best. We always talk about the 2020 season as like the gold standard. Like, can we ever reach there again? I have hope that's what we'll see this season as like the truest, like right out the gate. It's just nonstop 0 to 60 all the time. Like, doesn't feel like we're catching up. Feels like we have most of the teams that are like day one hitting the ground running. And I'm hoping that's the case. I feel like we will have that. Yep. That's my bold prediction to start the year. I think we will see earlier than recently, like mid-season football to begin the season.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. You know, kind of segue here because we're wrapping near the end of the show. One thing I did want to talk about, because I was shocked, just shocked. I was watching WWE Elimination Chamber. I think me and Brandon were the only two people in maybe
Gabe.
I don't know.
Gabe.
And Gabe. Yep. We were watching the wrestling in the Discord. And they were doing this segment on The Rock, and they were talking about, oh, he's the most followed American on social media. And they were listing off all his businesses. And I turned to my wife. I said, you watch. They're not going to mention the UFL. And they were going, Terramana, Zoa. The list went on and on and on. And I couldn't believe it. They actually mentioned the UFL. It was, I mean, for a fraction of a second. We're talking like less than a second. But millions of people are tuned into WWE Elimination Chamber. I wouldn't say there's a huge crossover in fans, but I would say a good amount of wrestling fans are probably watching football. Maybe not all, but probably at least half of them. And if anything, it's just another reminder that spring football exists. It's what I've always wanted to see out of The Rock owning, whether it was the XFL or being a part owner of the UFL, is using his celebrity status to promote the league in every possible way, just like he does with every one of his other products. And for maybe the first time since this dude's owned the league, other than his appearances about either the XFL or the UFL, there was a mention about it. I mean, including a picture with him and Danny Garcia and the UFL ball, courtesy of Fox. God bless their soul. They need to be getting on with WWE every week. We say, hey, I know we just canceled your show. I get it. But maybe, hey, you know, we got a couple more of these UFL images you could slide in there.
That'd be a great way to lead into a pitch meeting. Hey, you know, I know we just canceled us, but here's the thing. What if we give you this? More of what you love.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think anybody else here saw that, but it was worth mentioning for if one reason alone. I always kind of maybe a little bit give The Rock a little bit of kind of shit about like not wearing a UFL armband during his Raw appearance or whatever it might be. And so just even though it was a fraction of a second, just seeing it there, just seeing it get recognized as a business that The Rock owns, it felt good. It did feel good. It was nice to see. And so sign everybody else up who saw that. But Ducky, I came into the Discord, didn't know what the hell we were talking about.
We're so depraved to see the UFL get cross-promoted anywhere that we will take a 2 to 3 second hit on Elimination Chamber.
2 to 3 seconds. Don't build it up that much. I got it. It was like maybe a quarter of a second at best.
I'm going to give it a crisp 3 seconds to be very generous, okay? I'm going to just
rounding up.
Crisp 3 seconds.
I'd say a second if you're rounding up.
Just let me, just say 3
It was
seconds.
5 seconds, Ducky, all right? It was 5 second recognition.
I was watching at 50%
you know what?
speed that night.
That's 5 seconds is a long time.
Yeah. Maybe next time. Anyway, any final thoughts? And before we head into the week, whoever has them, jump in.
St. Louis sucks.
Not a ton. The exciting stuff is that, media calls are starting up again with coaches and personnel. So we'll get more out of those soon. I think like today, a lot of it's generic to start. It's like, we're excited to be back out on the field. Love what we're seeing so far. The guys are excited. We're looking good. That's kind of the majority of what you're getting right now. So it's not like there's really any major scoops. But Zach, I know the one thing I touched on a bit, which you quote tweeted, was Jaden Sheridan in Michigan. That is a guy to watch. I mean, that's a small school guy at a Monmouth, but boy, is he fast. And Nolan, his face lit up when he started talking about Jaden. So that's a guy that I think could really make some noise with the Panthers.
Dude is
this year.
a speed demon. Trust me. You guys, if out here on the chat, go look up his Monmouth highlight reel. Dude is bad fast. I am hoping to God that he lands a good role or is that secondary back in this offense, because I think he can do some damage. But yeah, he's a bad fast kid from a small school. And I think he's going to get a little bit of light shine on him in this league if he gets the right opportunities. So I'm with Mike there. I've been saying this before that. That was one of my favorite pickups of this offseason for like one of them that wasn't like a returning player. I'm stoked to see what he can do.
Hell yeah. And that's what it's all about, man. Getting these guys from maybe a school that doesn't have the biggest spotlight and giving them that spotlight. And man, we're 25 days away from seeing the kickoff here. Now I will point out, everybody, Zach, you said, oh man, we didn't do a tee off message. I knew people would come. You know why I knew people would come? Because they listen to me when I say subscribe, click the bell. It builds morale. It also lets you know when we go live, just like we are now for Around ATU, just like we will be. Did I say Around ATU again? Anyway, just like we will be March 28th for Spring Stock 4 and every other thing in between. And you know what? It's free. It's free. It's so free. It's me. Go ahead and like the video. Dislike the video if you hate us. We will take the engagement. Get signed up. Follow us on social media at Around the UFL, at PF Newsroom, at UFL Newsroom, and a whole bunch of other things too, including the handles that we have below, especially Duckies. Make sure you're following us all. I think that's it, folks. So thank you for joining us for another fun week. We'll probably be back next week. And you know what? We might even be a little bit more prepared. So we might have some clips.
You say probably.
Maybe.
I say definitely.
Maybe we'll have an interview. But I know what we will have. We will be having some good times. So again, sign everybody up. Thank you for joining. And what's the other thing, Ducky? What is the last thing? Battle Ops.
Oh, St. Louis sucks.
Oh, there we go. Thank you. St. Louis sucks. There we
Checking
go.
off a box.
I couldn't find the button. I thought I was.